Christian Parenting.
As Christian parents, we all want to be praying for our kids, but knowing what to pray can really be hard. That's why Christian Parenting created a great cloud of witnesses prayer journal. It's to help busy parents like you and me intentionally pray for our kids and their faith all year long. This weekly journal walks through the lives of faithful men and women in Scripture like Abraham, Sarah, Moses, Rahab, who trusted an extraordinary God. It helps you to pray boldly for your kids, to follow in their footsteps, grow in character, deepen their faith, and trust God's plan. And every Monday on this podcast right here on Pardon the Mess, I will be praying with you through this very journal. So grab a group of your friends, your mom friends, and y'all commit to this school year praying for your kids. Visit cpgive.org and use code CLOUD to get your special podcast listener discount. That's cpgive.org, code CLOUD. Welcome back to Pardon the Mess. I'm your host, Courtney DeFeo, and I have loved this series. In fact, I ran into a friend of mine at church, and she said, okay, I've binged all of them, and I've cried every week. I'm like, yeah, same. Me too. But I hope if you've got little kids in the home that you're also tuning in, because I think there are some practical things we can do to prepare for that senior year and prepare for the empty nest so that we're not literally crashing and laying in the bed for a year. And so I hope this series has been helpful to each of you. And something else that was pressed on my heart today that I wanted just to share with all moms of all seasons is we've got to resist the temptation to compare. And very specifically, a couple of the guests have brought up that there is more time, there is more capacity when you have kids outside of the house, obviously. And so if you've got little kids in the home and you're like, I am barely getting dinner on the table, I'm barely getting myself to bed, it can be in a super intense time when you've got little ones in the home. And so I want to remind you that whether you have 1 kid, 2 kids, 8 kids, first graders, second graders, like you have to resist the temptation to compare yourself to other moms with different setups, with other moms with different challenges, other moms with different wins. Maybe all of their grandparents are helping all the time and you don't have any support. Or maybe, they have grown kids and they are just reading their Bible for an hour and you're feeling terrible. And it's like, no, I'm good to just say, Jesus, be with me today. And so just remember that even as you're listening to these series, just to go, every woman is different. God made each of our families different. And yes, we can learn and glean wisdom from each other, but ultimately you specifically as a mom are on a journey with you and God and you and your family. And again, we can take tips from podcasts, but never should these be prescriptive or do exactly as that person did. So I hope that encourages you today. But on this episode, I'm so excited to introduce you to Chyrstal Evans Hurst, longtime friend of mine. And we've actually had her sister on Pardon the Mess before. It's Priscilla Shire, and she is the daughter of Tony Evans and Lois Evans, her late mother, and she's actually the cousin of Winter Pitts, who we've had her husband on. She is my dear friend that I podcasted with that passed away several years ago, and so there's so many connections here, but Chyrstal is a powerhouse. She is a writer, speaker, gatherer, as she'll share, and she is such a great practical coach that believes in Jesus, but is also like put the lights of fire under you to say like, let's get going. And so for those of you that are like, yeah, it's just going to be hard. It's like, no, there are things we can practically do leading up to the empty nest years, but also in the empty nest years to kind of find our purpose again or find our passion again. And just so many things. She talks about how to like help your kids learn how to be adults that are functioning in the world without us. So she talks about finances. She talks about a binder that I'm like, oh my word, I need a binder with my marriage license and my will and all the things in it. So I think this is one of those episodes where you will be inspired, but you're also practically going to get some ideas on what it looks like to prepare for the empty nest stage in a really healthy and practical way. All right, enjoy my dear friend, Chyrstal. Hey, Chyrstal, how are you?
I'm good, Courtney, girl. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. Gosh, it's been too long. I cannot believe how long it's been since I've seen you. And we live in the same city, so what a shame. You're right down the road.
It's all right. I figure when women podcast, this is code for excuse to talk to my friends and have it on my business calendar.
That's right.
I'm good.
That is right. Tell us how you are. So for those that don't know you, introduce yourself,
Sure.
What stage of life you're in with your kids, and what's business looking like these days.
So I am a mom longer than I've been a wife. My first child was born to me when I was 19. I was a single mom for the first 10 years or so of adulthood. And then I got married. My husband and I gave each other the gift of a girl on a wedding day. So we were a blended family from the start. And then we added 3 boys after that. So I have 5 children currently ages 33 to 16. My 33-year-old is married and has 5 children. So I have 5 grandchildren from ages 9 to 1. My husband and I have been married for 24 years, and we are 2 years away from technically being empty nesters. But I just don't know if that will be the case truly for a while because kids ricochet back home.
Which I
And the
used to judge
grandchildren
people,
too.
and now I'm like, yes, please come back and hang out with me.
That's correct. That's correct. So, but I think it is an interesting season because when your kids are young, you think, I can't wait until they get a little older because you're looking for things to become stable. And the more you parent, you realize there's never any stability because whatever stability you feel like changes as soon as your kids change. And so when they graduate, you're like, okay, now we're entering another season. But your kids, even though they're changing more outside of your home than in, they're still in and out and they're still changing and they still need you. And so it feels a little bit of like double dutch. It's like, am I in? Am I out? Like what's the rhythm right now? So I think I'm enjoying it because I've learned that in every season of life, particularly of motherhood, you've got to enjoy it because it's gone before you can even get good at it. But I think we're in this season of drawing some boundaries about what we are and are not going to do because kids are forever needy. We love you, but also
what does that look like? So is that like a conversation? And I imagine it's different with your first child launching than your third one, fifth one. You know what I mean? Like you probably learned some stuff.
I mean, I think we like, for example, like money is a thing. So I had one of my kids and I pay my kids from the business. And I can talk more about that if you want me to later. But I pay my kids from the business because I am funneling down their expenses to them. 1, to make them responsible, and 2, also because it's a tax deduction. So that's fun. But there was one of my kids and he was in a program where he really wasn't spending money, but his payment was on automatic. So he's home for the summer. We're like, we're going to make up for that. But he went to the store to buy something. And of course was like, he gave me the receipt like he always does. And I said, I think you have gotten paid for 3 months and had no expenses. I think you've got that. And I remember the time when my parents, I mean, not specifically, but generally, I remember when one day I expected them to pay me back for something and they were like, no. So I stumble upon a lot of that with the oldest child because you're kind of reactive. It's just like one day it's like, where's the boundary on who's spending money for what? Or where's the boundary on, you've been away at school. And so coming in at any and all time seems right, but that's not right because I can't sleep if you're not home. Like creating guidelines for your home. And so we've transitioned from guidelines for you as a kid in our home to guidelines for our home because we have a life.
Yeah.
I don't want, you may not have to do the dishes right after dinner because maybe you went out. But if it's your night and if that's your responsibility, what are the boundaries? They shouldn't be there in the morning when I get up. So just hitting the reset button where it's our home. And if you live here as you get older or if you ricochet here after college, we love you. Be here. The world is crazy. Money is stupid. Save your coins. However, it is our home. So it's less about your chores and more about mutual consideration and honor and talking in those terms about what's required.
So good.
It's time. When I was in college, I went to my grandparents' home and stayed out with some friends who were in the area that I'd met in college and they lived there. And I got home, got back at 1:00 in the morning. My grandfather was sitting on the porch and he lived in the hood, like gunshots 2 blocks over. He was sitting on the porch. And when I walked up to the porch, he was like, I don't know what you do at home. You can't do that here. He said, it's not because you can't be free. It's because I'm not free waiting on you to come home.
So that's a good one.
So I think we just have to decide where our freedom begins and ends and communicate that as we realize that a boundary that's new, that's being traversed is being crossed. They don't know it, but we start to feel it and you have to communicate it.
Wow, so good. Out of the gate. Look at her, guys. She just pours wisdom. All right, go back to your business. Tell people what you do for those that don't know you. And then when did you fold the kids in and what kind of things do they do with your business?
Yeah, sure. So so it's all accidental. And because I'm a firstborn achiever, strengths finder, whatever says go and do, I'm that person. So I have to regularly remember that it's all accidental and not try to take control and be independent of the Lord's leading. But I am a speaker. I'm a writer first. I'm a speaker second. I'm a gatherer third. And so I thought in 2014, because I was blogging and had been just a mommy blogger because I enjoy the tech and all that. I had done that for a while, like probably 2006.
Wow.
And in 2014, writing just felt like, whoa, it's a lot. And I was like, you know what? I could podcast and like speak 7,500 words in 30 minutes and then pull my blog post from there. So that's what was supposed to happen. And I podcasted for 5 years. And then everybody kept saying, do YouTube, like the Google algorithm. And the whole reason I was podcasting and did not do YouTube, which I could kick myself for that now, was because who wants to get dressed? Like literally the reason why 5 minutes late for our podcast today, Courtney, is because I came in here half dressed and I literally keep a makeup bag in my office so I can get myself together.
Amazing. I'm wearing pajama pants as we speak. So
listen,
I'm with you.
Okay, my foot is hiked up with my cream, my special cream for my foot, So in 2020, though, I had said, you know what? I probably, in order to grow my audience, I need to get on YouTube. And I had been practicing with all the things because, I'm a geeky girl. And then COVID happened. So the Monday of COVID, I was like, well, if there's any day I'm supposed to go live, it's probably today. So I flipped the switch and went live and everybody was like, can we do this again tomorrow? And I was like, okay, sure. So I did it for the first week. And then it was like, am I going to keep doing this? I went live every day for 3 months. And I had started in January a membership, or the previous October, 2019, a membership. I had 89 people in January of 2020. And Kat Lee and I met in January of 2020, and she says, well, what are your goals for growth? And I said, you know what? If I could grow this to 300 people, then that would mean I could cut my speaking schedule in half and stay home more. So that was my goal. YouTube opened up a whole world. And by the end of 2020, I had 1,800 people in a membership.
Wow.
So now I'm YouTubing and podcasting, creating content, creating courses, serving a membership, and that has become the business. So the Sister Circle is a business whereby I am the main voice, but if you could combine Lisa Turkhurst with Proverbs 31, Oprah with the Oprah Winfrey Show and the Oprah Winfrey Network, and like your local church group, if all the churches in your Metroplex got together for a girls event, it's like a virtual girl gang where we want to have not the Bible study, but sometimes Bible study, not what color is my color or body type is my body type, but sometimes that, but also how do we make it through seasons of empty nesting, like practical conversations for women of faith who want to live intentionally. So I'm the main voice. My goal is to build a sister circle where it's basically a network of women who blog, who teach, who coach, and it's like a shopping network. So you can come figure out what you need, search by topic, and find a woman who's willing to teach it. So we're currently in the building stages of that, but I still go live every Monday and we still create content. We settled down, COVID, a lot of things spiked, but we've got about 1,000 members and we serve them, create content, and have events to create experiences for women who want to live well. So that's
You're
the mouthful and the bottom line.
You're so good at this, you're good at this one-on-one as a friend, combining all that, because that's who you are. You're like, let's actually talk about mascara. Let's talk about Jesus. Let's talk about the funny stuff of parenting. I'll never forget, what was the one you taught at our church one time, and you had a certain fragrance or oil that you
Black woman. And listen, Courtney, can I tell you how many times I've said, I really need to change the name of this? Like, I really need to change the name. And everybody's like, no, it's funny. I mean, Beth Moore, I gave it to Beth Moore as a gift because she just thought it was a hoot. And she said she used so much of that. And when Keith said, what is that smell? What kind of perfume did you put on? She said, Keith, well, let me tell you, I got black woman all over me. So it just, I guess it's comical. But yes, it is this fragrance that people kept asking me, what are you wearing? And I would say black woman. And I hated saying it. But then they were like, well, where can I get it? So I started selling it.
You just should be getting an affiliate rate, for that. You should be getting some, what is it, like kickbacks.
Something.
Okay, so I have so many things I want to ask you, but what I love about your entire family is y'all are all gifted communicators, but I think that you have ability to take something that feels complex and then just shuck it down, and you just say the truth. You're like, here's what we need to do, and you don't shy 100%. Away from that. It doesn't come across to me as like, I know everything and follow what I do. It's like, I don't know, you just have a very cool anointed ability to like see through the clutter and be like, here's the 3 things we're going to do. So I thought you'd be the perfect person to get super practical. So as we're preparing, whether you've got little kids in the home or people listening like me, they're launching their first, what are some practical things you're like, hey, it's coming, whether you like it or not, the empty nest is coming. What can we do practically to prepare for that?
Well, 100%. The thing is, prepare for it. mentally by doing it earlier. So a part of the reason why I think it's so traumatizing is because we enter that senior year and it's all about that launch. But the launch is happening so far ahead of that. And when you think, okay, this kid is going to live on their own without me, this kid needs to be able to adult a little bit, like even the fact that they shouldn't be learning their social security number when they go to college, which is, often they do.
As parents, we all want our kids to do well in school and feel really confident. Maybe your child is struggling with a specific subject and needs a little extra help. Maybe your child is ahead and wants to challenge themselves. Or maybe you just want to avoid the summer slide and head back to school strong in the fall. If you can relate to any of those things, you need to look at IXL. IXL is an online learning program that enriches your homeschool curriculum. It offers practice in math, English, language arts, science, and social studies while adapting to each child. It meets them right where they are. Plus, IXL encourages students to be curious and empowers them to choose how to learn. Both of my kids have used IXL through their school for years, and I can see the difference it made in both of their lives. Everything on IXL is organized by grade, subject, topic, and subtopic, makes it super simple to find activities for the exact skills you are covering. IXL is trusted by 15 million students worldwide and has proven to improve performance in over 75 scientific research studies. That is amazing. You can make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And as part of the Mess listeners, you can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/today. Visit IXL.com/today to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price.
This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy. Let's be honest, loving your partner doesn't mean you always like them, and guess what? That's normal. Regain, powered by BetterHelp, offers couples therapy that's flexible, affordable, and 100% online. Whether you're reconnecting or working through conflict, Regain is here to support you both. See why people wish they'd tried couples therapy sooner. Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. That's regain.com/couplespod.
It's backwards engineering some of those things. I've always thought in my parenting journey that my goal is to work myself out of a job. And the way I normally feel like it's time for them to take more responsibility in preparation for launching is when I start getting frustrated. Like everybody else is watching TV or hanging out, but me, because I'm still cleaning the kitchen or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the sign. They need to come in here and learn how to do this. Or I'm constantly finding laundry that's washed and clean, but not folded and put away. Okay. So these are the things that have to do with a launch mindset. Now, of course, we all know we've got to train our kids and they've got to do chores. But if you can just flip a switch and say, what will they need to know how to do without me, and train them for life earlier? So kids being in a Dave Ramsey class to talk about finances, giving them money so they practice giving, saving, and tithing before they ever, have the opportunity to make enough money, when they're in college, setting their schedule. I remember my daughter, we homeschooled, so there was a little bit of that in terms of the reason why I did this, but we planned our day. I made her plan her day. I got her just a weekly planner from Office Depot, Office Max, something like that. And I made her plan her days. And she went to college and was so glad she was free of me forcing her to plan her weeks and all that kind of stuff. And it took like 6 weeks. And then she was like, Mom, where's that planner that you used to give me so I can plan so when you are doing these things just to create independence in them, if you can just turn a switch in your mind, it's not that I'm doing this just to train them. I'm doing this because I'm training them to live without me.
That's
so
great.
When you get into the season of launch, yes, there are the special events, the celebratory graduation, and the picking of the college and dropping them off at school, but your mindset is the problem. So the reason why so many people struggle is because they didn't flip that switch until their kids were in their spring of their junior year or in their senior year. If you start flipping that switch earlier, how are they going to live without me? Like literally, this is traumatic, but if you have to think of it this way, if you as a mom or as your mom and dad, we're going to get hit by a bus, like you're on a plane and the plane blows up in the air. Like, this is terrible, but your kids would immediately be launched into some semblance of independence. If they're older, of course, if they're younger, they're to be careful.
Yeah.
What would they need to know? I remember my aunt was a single parent, and she told me when her daughter was little and they were in a city all by themselves, this is terrible, but I used it. She told her daughter, if you ever come in and I'm cold and I'm not responsive, that probably means I'm dead. Here's what you need to do. Here are the 3 things you need to do. So I was a single parent. I told my kid that, but I literally, just in all seriousness, we have a binder where I have shown my children, this is the will. This is our marriage certificate. Here's the list of people. Here is the attorney. And so as I'm telling them these things, what are these things? Why do we have them? When your kids get to be 17, that is the time where you say to them, listen, you're going to be an adult when you're 18. You can do this when they're 16. Here are the things I need in place for you, because when they're an adult and the school won't talk to you because they have to have the child's permission, which is stupid, but it's the way it works.
Yep.
You already have authority at their doctor's offices. You already have a will for them. So I'm throwing out a lot of stuff, but the main thing is
great.
You've got to prepare yourself before you launch them to realize that you need not just a year, you need 4 to 6 years before you launch them to launch them. So when you are getting prepared for them to actually leave, not only are things already in place, but your mindset is also in place too.
Can you make that the next book? Can you make us a checklist, please? That would be amazing. But speaking of books, let's switch to us. So I know for me, for years, I have put a priority on being a mom over my side hustles and passions and jobs. And then I'm feeling it already, that tension of like, well, who am I? Am I ever going to get a job? What am I going to do with my life? And so your recent book talks about how to kind of discover the gifts that we bring to the world. I think a lot of moms get nervous about that stage and kind of feel lost. So tell us about that importance and maybe some tips from your book on how we can do that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you should always be a student of yourself. Always paying attention. And you can do this when you have kids that are in diapers. We have the ability, and I think this is so underrated, moms who are taking care of their kids, whether you're working or not, you have this ability not only to pay attention to what lights your fire, because your kids are going to learn their passion from life, from the overflow of you having passion in life. So it should never stop engaging in your passion. So even when my babies were nursing and I was saying F is for fire truck on my blog, it was 2 a.m. in the morning and I'd have a boob out with a baby nursing on the left side. So I could use my right hand to peck out the blog post, right? Like this was me engaging in passion. I was always involved in the music ministry of my church. Before the day I die, I would love to write like 3 songs on a little EP and release them. Something I want to do, but I was always involved in the music ministry of my church. I'm not like Susie Homemaker, but I love the idea that when my kids come home, there's something that smells good. So I was experimenting with recipes because I had to feed people all the time when they were small. You are never not in a season where you can't honor your passions, even if it's just a little bit.
So good.
Commit to that journey lifelong, even if you can't do it full throttle until you're in a season where your kids are grown and gone, because those little investments are like seeds that will bloom in the right season. So don't wait, just plant small seeds. The second thing I would say is that you really want to honor the gifts and the skills that you have developed, because I have found that moms and teachers, for me, make the best volunteers, workers, whatever, because we don't have an 8 to 5 mindset. We have a when the job is done mindset. You already know how to manage schedules, project manage. You know how to deal with people, multiple personalities. You know how to be responsive, reactive, and proactive when you can. These are skills that lend themselves to the workplace or to your entrepreneurial endeavors. And so it may not be something that you can see. In fact, this would be a great project for you and a girlfriend to do. Like, go to a long lunch or an early morning breakfast and champion, like 2 or 3 friends, champion the skills, the abilities, and the passions that you see in another woman. Now, we know this in like the corporate workspace, right? The idea of transferable skills, that you can have one job working for Chick-fil-A, but you can go and work for a trucking company because these skills are transferable.
Yeah.
Well, there are transferable skills when you're a mom with your kids, but often we don't see them, right? So you get with your friends and say, call out my transferable skills. What do you see that lights me up or that I can do easily that is difficult for other people? So the mom who is always the room mom who makes sure that the parties are happening, that's an event planner. You know what I'm saying? Like the one that always has the schedule ready to go and the files are organized on the hard drive and you need a photo, she knows exactly where it is because they're all tagged in keyword. That is somebody's 6-figure executive assistant. Like we have to normalize the skill sets that we develop, but that we don't know how to call by public names. And that's where your sister circle comes in handy because other people can see and name what is regular and average to you.
Yes. I've had that conversation with two friends recently that brought their resumes to Ron and I, and they were struggling because they were leaving ministry. And so it was a similar kind of challenge of like, I know I've done this for 10 years, but how do I put this in corporate speak? Because I'm ready to make that transition. So I love that you brought that up for moms, because you're right. We do have skills we just kind of forget. And so you're one of those people that call them out. And I sure do appreciate that. So tell us about the book. Why did you do the 100 Days to Discover the Gift of You? Is that right?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? And then what are you seeing as the result? I imagine some of your sister circle are feeling the benefit of doing this process.
Yeah. So when I wrote She's Still There, so this is, the book that just keeps on giving. It was 2017. There's one chapter in there that talks about gaining a perspective on your life. And GAIN is an acronym for your gifts, your abilities, your interests or passions, and your nature or personality. And so I walked people through that framework for looking at what God put in you, paying attention to you. And we've gotten so much positive feedback on that chapter. It was like, well, let's expand it and give people a journey where we put all the things together for you to go deep, instead of the 3 questions that were at the end of the chapter, an actual body of work that would allow you to take time excavating the gifts in you. Because most of us are just busy and we're doing what we have to do and we're doing what's due tomorrow. And we can casually say, what did God give you? But again, most of us, I've found after that book being out and after women reading that chapter, they really needed more than 3 questions and a bigger guide and a deeper dive in order to really see what exists. Your gifts are simply the things that come easy to you. You think that they're easy, but everybody else is like, oh my gosh, you do that so well. Abilities are things that may or may not come naturally or easy, but they're developed. So it's a skill. I'm not born as an accountant, but I can learn that and have that ability or skill. Your interests or passions are the things that set your soul on fire. So the way I look at it is, at a concert, there's somebody who's gifted to sing, right? There is somebody who has been trained to sing. There is somebody who maybe even can't sing. They're not gifted or trained, but they sure do shout it out every chance they get. They belt it because they're excited about the song. And then there is the personality. And this is why you can go to an opera concert and see one personality on stage, or you go to a Beyonce concert and it's a whole different experience because how we show up for our gifts, our skills, our passions is determined by our personalities or our stage presence, if you will. And so the book basically dives into how to figure what those things are for you and how to then put that together in a package to apply that today. My gifts I'm a wordsmith, and I'm not a natural speaker. I've learned to be, but I sure do love writing. And in the writing and in the speaking, I've created spaces where women wanted to gather. And since the 2nd grade, I was always the kid who felt left out on the playground. And so I've always created spaces for women to feel like they belong. And it was like, well, why shouldn't I do that if women are trying to figure out how to develop?
Yeah.
So that was an outgrowth of me championing my own gifts, abilities, interests, and passions. And I find that if you will just commit to doing the work of discovery, whether you talk to friends or use a resource like the book that I have, if you will just commit, God is just so excited about partnering with people who are willing to go on the adventure, and so you have to get off the sidelines and get in the game. And then he calls a play where you get the ball. So even if you don't know what you're looking for, do the work, get with your friends, get a resource, and excavate the thing. Because once you see the dots, then God's job is to draw the line and connect them.
Love it. Well, and I think that a lot of us, and I'm just conversation I'm having with moms, that we think it's, you have been, or you're too old or whatever.
Nope.
And then we get too lazy to do the work. And then the enemy is like loving life because it's like, perfect. I'm going to keep you in your house on Netflix because, why would I, so I just feel like that work allows God to put us back out in the world to do what he just created us to do. And it's thrilling when you get taste of it again. You're like, oh my gosh, it's still there. It's like, I act like I'm 82. I'm like, I'm 48. We've got some time, folks, to reinvent ourselves.
Goodness. And listen, my husband sometimes rolls his eyes when I say it, but I'm like, this is the best. I'm having the best time because with the increase of your knowledge of yourself. And in the season of life where you're about that time when your kids are starting to leave, you connect your increased knowledge of yourself with increased wisdom of operating in the world and increased capacity, because you probably have a little better knowledge or access to finances or friends or connections to do something with all the stuff that you know. Yes, 100%. The enemy's like, if I can dumb down any one of those three things, then she's going to sit in Netflix and, have that glass of wine every night before she goes to bed or first thing in the morning, like just numbing out, when really the goal of engaging is so that you get to light a fire on what is a stacked container of fireworks and dynamite. But if it just sits there, it doesn't light up.
All right, let's talk about our faith and then we'll close up. But we also can't wait to grow in our faith. Like, if I'm really going to trust God with my kids, this can't be a new decision. Like, I've had to, and one of my friends said in an episode, you've been letting them go for years. And I have your cousin Winter's prayer right here about surrendering. She is yours right beside me. And so it's a constant thing for me, but I'm glad it's not a new thing for me. So how important is our faith as we prepare for the empty nest years?
Well, the empty nest years, just like it's an opportunity to invite your husband into it, it's an opportunity for you to grow in relationship in new and exciting ways with God. And listen, I was on a prayer walk run this morning. You will also, for those young adult children, be on your knees in new and exciting ways, because you can't just make them do what you want them to do. And they actually legally can do things that are wonderful or that completely screw up their lives. And you are in a coach guidance counselor mode, more so than you were when you were peeling yourself away at 16, 17, and 18. And so oftentimes the power of prayer for me has been the most engaging and beautiful when I've had the least power in my children's lives to exact change or input or guidance or direction. There's more time. And I always would think, people are super spiritual. They talk about, just tarrying before the Lord in my prayer closet, or, Jesus was with the disciples and he was like, can't you even just be awake for an hour or whatever? And I was like, no, we can't do that. An hour is too long. You know what I'm saying? But my list these days is so long. By the time I have prayed about stuff I need, that my husband needs, that my kids need, that my grandkids need, I'm like, oh my goodness, has it been? And that freedom comes with the freedom of time.
Yeah.
And the lack of hurry, hustle, bustle, get out the door in the morning. And don't forget, this is the school picture day. So there is this leisureliness that you have to, study a little deeper, pray a little longer, to avail yourself for God appointments, that the person who he dropped in your mind in the morning on your walk or as you prayed is the person who you're supposed to reach out to. It puts you in a space where the additional flexibility and responsiveness that you have to the promptings of the Holy Spirit, it puts you in a different, exciting lane of your spiritual journey.
Love
because
that.
When you're not as ruled by the school schedule or the pickup line or all of the things that fritter your day away when you have your kids in school, to be led by the Holy Spirit because you have the bandwidth to hear.
Yes.
And to see how God works in crazy ways with things you couldn't have known, but you were able to hear and engage. That is like a shot to your spiritual life if you allow it to be.
Wow.
And so just like you can invite your husband into this new and exciting space, it's like going to God and saying, listen, you're doing a lot of things in the world. I've got bandwidth. How do you want to put me to work?
Yes.
And him going, oh, you're right. Let's rock. So if we look at this empty nesting, like it's an exciting and hard time of letting go, but it's an exciting and wonderful time with empty hands to have hands that can be filled with new and exciting things, it changes the story narrative, I think.
Gosh, I'm going to tell you this super fast story. It's really long, but I'll try to be fast. But you just put words to something I experienced the other day. So it's going to make me sound like an angel, but bear with me. So I'm taking Larson to camp, but I just took a gate pass because she's like, Mom, she's my most independent. I want to go on my own. So I go to the gate pass. We get there and there's a mom coming off of the airplane, deplaning, and she's in a wheelchair. She has a dog in her lap barking. She's having an anxiety attack. She's breathing. She has 3 kids. one in a stroller, 2 boys. And I'm watching the flight attendant try to help her. And he's like, okay, ma'am, you got to go because the next one, the connections, it's going to be at A and you got to get on the Skylink. And she was sobbing. And so I looked at Larson and she said, you're going to go, aren't you? I'm like, absolutely. Like I had time, like I didn't have a flight. And I was like, and I just knew it was like God's going like, pass the torch. Like now she's yours. And so walked with her. She burst into tears. I was like, I'm going through a divorce. I'm trying to get to my parents. And it was like, and then I got her there. It was this whole story. She almost passed out twice. But once I got her on the plane, I just burst into tears and was like, that was a 11-minute assignment from the Lord. And that I had bandwidth to just be at the airport and be able to do that was like, this is what we're made for. And so I think you just put words to something that's exactly what I want this next season. It's like, Lord, I have room to breathe for a second. Where exactly do you want me? I've done the work to figure out how I'm wired. And now I'm just opening my hands to say, use me in the best way. And so this has been so good. I love you dearly. Tell people where they can find your resources, your circle, your books, all that stuff.
Yeah. So everywhere, Chrystal Hurst. That's it. Just Chrystal with an H, CHRYSTAL, and Hurst, HURST. That's my social handle. That's my website, Chyrstal Evans Hurst, if you want to be more specific. But you can find me and all the things anywhere.
Hey, I love you. Let's go to North Park and have a little lunch. I'm going to find you.
The Foo-Foo Mall.
The Foo-Foo Mall. Let's do it. Love you. Thank you for doing this. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Pardon the Mess. As always, we've got more encouragement and resources over at christianparenting.org. And you can also stay connected with us on social media at Pardon the Mess. And if you like this episode, I'd love for you to do 2 things. Press follow on whatever podcast platform you love, and also be sure to leave a rating so other parents can find us. Remember, you're never alone in this beautiful mess of parenting.
Hey, this is Steph Thurling, Executive Director of Christian Parenting and host of the Christian Parenting Podcast. Every month, thousands of parents read and listen to our podcasts, articles, and digital resources. Did you know that in the past 12 months, the shows on our podcast network have been downloaded over 4 million times? Each one of those numbers represents a life, and we are deeply moved that so many people are receiving accessible, trustworthy, and timely biblical guidance through our resources. If you have been impacted by Christian parenting, we would love to hear your story. Visit christianparenting.org/testimony to tell us about how Christian parenting has impacted your family and your faith. That's christianparenting.org/testimony, or just click the link in show notes.